This is Bruce Friedman of Adult Site Broker, and welcome to Adult Site Broker Talk, where every week we interview one of the movers and shakers of the adult industry, and we give you a tip on buying and selling websites. This week, we'll be talking to Roger T. Pipe of Raj Reviews. Adult Site Broker is proud to introduce ASB Marketplace, the first platform where you can buy and sell adult sites and domains for free. ASB Marketplace allows buyers and sellers the chance to come together on properties that are valued below our company's minimum of $50,000. Don't pay for other marketplaces when ASB Marketplace gives you this service for free. Visit asbmarketplace.com and sign up as a seller or as a buyer today. And don't forget ASB Cash, the first affiliate program for an adult website brokerage where you can earn as much as 20% of our broker commission referring sellers and buyers to us at Adult Site Broker. Check out asbcash.com for more details and to sign up. Now let's feature our property of the week that's for sale at Adult Site Broker. We're offering a rapidly growing hair shaving site. This site shows women getting their head shaved. It does not show explicit content, so it's much easier to promote than most adult sites. The site creates an environment for their customers where they feel like they're getting invited to the party of their hair fetish dreams. They love using slogans like, "Come join the party." There's a sister site that is a unique method of hosting their videos in a discreet manner for their customers. The site is fueled by redirects. This is essentially the brains of the whole operation. It handles the billing and rebilling, user information, and video displays. There's also a separate forum and a download store that did $5,000 in sales the first month alone. There's no paid advertising. They go directly to their customers with targeted SEO, YouTube videos, and social media. The community for this niche is very loyal, and the members will help any way they can to see sites like this grow. They'll donate. Some will even do work for the site for free. The site has a lot of room to grow with a little more time and investment. There's a mailing list of well over 1,100. Models' hair can be sold for thousands of extra dollars. There are trained producers for these shoots who would be happy to stay on after the sale. This great site is available for only $480,000. Now time for this week's interview. My guest today on Adult Site Broker Talk is Roger T. Pipe of Raj Reviews. Roger, thanks for being with us today on Adult Site Broker Talk.
Thank you for having me.
Now, an avid porn fan since the mid-1980s, Roger T. Pipe started reviewing adult movies as a hobby in 1995 and posting them to news groups. Remember those? Now, after having them picked up by adult retail sites, Roger began RajReviews.com in 1996. The site houses over 8,000 reviews of adult movies, as well as toys, websites, and hundreds of interviews with porn stars. He's a member of the X-Rated Critics organization and was inducted into the XRCO Hall of Fame in 2009. Roger is also a regular voter in the annual AVN and XRCO Awards. He does a yearly podcast series breaking down the AVN Award nominees and winners. Roger has appeared on television on Naked New York, numerous radio programs, including regular segments on Love Bites with Bob Berkowitz, KSX Radio, Playboy Radio, Daily Noise, like my dog barking back there, as well as his own shows on Radio Dentata. I used to do a show on that as well. I remember we were both hosts. In 2010, Roger penned a chapter entitled Something for Everyone for the collection Philosophy for Everyone, How to Think with Kink. Now, Roger, do you still remember the first porn you ever watched?
I do, actually. Now, there's kind of two answers. The first one I ever watched wasn't intentional.
Oh.
It was a movie called Let's Talk Sex. I didn't realize that until much later. I was babysitting, and everyone was asleep, and there was a tape, a VHS tape next to the VCR, and being of a certain age, I was curious.
Of
and
course.
I popped it in, and I got to tell you, I was disgusted. I was really just, no. I didn't even want to go close to it.
Yeah.
It just was so shocking to me.
Yeah.
Now, the first one I
How
watched
old? How old?
intentionally,
How old were you?
I was 16, 17.
Oh wow.
It was a little much.
Were
Back
you
then,
were you from a religious upbringing or something?
no, I
Okay.
had girlfriends and had been in person
Yeah.
that intimate,
Right.
but seeing it on screen just wasn't. And again, I'm old, so I come from a time when stealing my friend's dad's Playboy was a Mission Impossible level espionage act.
Oh yeah, I remember.
And so that's what I was expecting everything to look like. And this was an early 80s movie, and it didn't look at all like that.
Nope.
And it was a little much. But a few years later, I discovered W Pink TV with Christy Canyon and watched that repeatedly and began my lifelong obsession with Christy Canyon.
Now, how did you end up with your own site?
As you mentioned in the intro, I had posted in some news groups. Like a lot of people, I got a PC. A friend of mine hooked it up to the internet, and I found all of these news groups, which were just amazing. Every possible. I kind of look at Reddit and think that was it. Reddit is every news group.
Yep.
It was all of them, and a couple of them had to do with adult movies. And I worked in video stores, and again, as a young male not living with his parents, I was kind of put in charge of the porn section for a long time.
I hope you didn't have to clean up the booths.
No, this was a regular video store, so there was well, I won't say there was never a cleanup. There was not supposed to be cleanup, but I was kind of the resident porn expert, and went to a couple of shows. So I gravitated to these news groups and found people writing reviews.
Interesting.
And writing them in ways that weren't like the adult press. The adult press in the 80s to the early 90s, AVN did their thing. As a video store manager, I loved AVN because they gave us a synopsis to tell us what to buy.
Right.
But from a fan's perspective, there was nothing there. It was describing the box cover, and it was very dry to me. And I found other people doing what I considered real reviews, really kind of digging in deep. And I started doing that partially as a sort of a writer's block tool. I'd come home from work, write a couple of reviews, and just sort of get flowing. And I found feedback instantly from other fans. Oh, I like that too. I love this camera angle. And it picked up.
Sure.
And then IAFD, Adult Internet Film Database, the guy who ran that said, you really should have a place to house these. You're just posting them to news groups. And I go, okay. So he put them on his site, and he said, you should start your own site. So I went out and I bought Front Page. People remember that Microsoft product.
Sure.
And I built Raj Reviews on Front Page. It was horribly clunky, but that's how it ended up there.
Funny. And when did it become Raj Reviews?
96. I started reviewing 95. So we're actually coming up on 25 years, I believe, in May.
Wow.
I've been doing this for 25 years. So it's gone through a few iterations since the Front Page days, thankfully. But it just sort of took off, and I'm really kind of lucky that it did.
Yeah. It's become a career for you, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about the review site landscape, and we had some casual conversation about this prior to the interview. There seems to be a lot of consolidation going on right now. Have you noticed that?
Over the 25 years, there was a time when there were probably a good 20 to 30 review sites that I followed regularly, or I knew who ran them, or knew who wrote for them, besides AVN and XBiz and Adult DVD Talk and XCritic. The sites are still around. There were a lot of other smaller ones. And over time, they've sort of gone away. The consolidation part of it, it's hard to run a site. It's hard to review enough movies to run a site. I know, I've tried. It's very difficult. It's hard to make a living, which means it's hard to hire writers. I get a lot of, over the years, a lot of people, can I write for your site? I'm like, yes. I either can't pay you or I can pay you a very small amount. And very few people are willing to write for nothing or for next to nothing.
Right.
And I totally respect that. I understand that completely.
Hmm.
And I think that's part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing, we started talking casually.
Mm-hmm.
A large part of the porn audience no longer pays for what they're watching.
That's true.
And as such, I think they're less reliant on reviews. What I used to get in the beginning that I loved these emails were, "Oh, thank you so much. I've only got so much to spend every month on, on DVDs or VHS tapes, and I would have never found this if you hadn't recommended it." Or,
Mm.
"Thank you. I was going to buy this and I read your review and no, it's not for me. I chose something else." So I think and it's still important for people who are spending money,
Right.
but also the way porn is consumed, right? It's a little different.
Mm-hmm.
Now you've got these huge mega sites, and
Yeah.
they've got 4,000 scenes. For $20 a month, you can click on the ones you like and move around. If you don't like something, you can decide not to watch it. Back when we were buying physical media, the only way to see the movie is to buy the movie.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
so,
You go back to that age, sure.
yeah, I think that's part of it. I've always found it challenging to review websites,
Mm-hmm.
more challenging for me than physical media, because a movie has a beginning and an end. Whether it's a feature or a wall to wall or a compilation, doesn't matter. It has a beginning and an end, and I can write that so that someone can read it and go, "Okay, now I know what's in it."
Mm-hmm.
It's, to me, it'd be like reviewing an album versus reviewing a streaming music service.
Yeah, it's true.
How do you review when there's 4 million choices?
Yeah.
To me, website reviews always end up kind of talking about the bells and whistles.
Right.
How good's the connection, which is all important stuff, totally important.
Yeah.
But to me, it doesn't focus on the media as much.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's part of what you're seeing, the consolidation. And again, I think as the industry as a whole, the big pie has sort of shrunk. I think it shrinks all around.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is, I was able to make a living off of it and have a very understanding family.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, it was just, "Hey, look, when I got married and had to go and not do this anymore."
Yeah.
And unfortunately, with a couple of sites that I used to follow a lot, LSB Reviews and Den CAVR, they both passed away.
Oh.
And there was no one to sort of, I've got almost 9,000 reviews. Den has 26,000. So you want to talk about the king of people reviewing porn? That was him. He unfortunately passed. So it does, I think that was a long answer. Sorry about that.
No, don't worry about it. No, take as much time as you want. We don't have a time limit. I like long answers. So go ahead.
This is actually how I ended up reviewing for the internet instead of magazines. I tried for magazines a couple times, and they said, "Okay, you get 200 words or 400 words." It's like, man, I can't describe the cast in less than 600.
Yeah.
So the sort of open flow works well for me.
Yeah.
I think another thing is, again, I'm 53 now.
Oh,
I started in my
you're
late
so
20s.
You're so young.
Yeah. So someone the same age I was when I started, they were raised on a different kind of porn. On the bite size, reviews are not as important. Also, you can see so much. Again, if people really want to think back to 1996, there was no video preview on the internet.
Right.
With those of us that remember Napster, it took us 12 minutes to download a song on a good day. And I have somewhere some floppy disks with 15-second video clips.
Oh, God.
Those were amazing. Well, now you can go to Twitter and see a long enough preview of a movie to know if you're going to like it or not.
Sure.
So I think it's changing. There's a lot of critics doing great stuff. And I think what we're starting to see a little bit of, and we need to see more of, is well-educated critics talking about the industry in general and directions that it's heading, in addition to critiquing the movies themselves or the art itself. What's the place of the industry? And there's a lot going on. There's lots happened in the world in the last year, and it's found its way into porn. And where do we stand on social justice issues, and what is and is not okay? 25 years and everything has changed.
Oh, you know it. Now, you talked about changes. What are the biggest changes you've seen in the adult industry in the last 25 years?
I think the biggest change, like we talked about, is a shift from physical media to digital,
Mm-hmm.
and sort of an unlimited options, right? I used to go to the video store and rent DVDs or
Mm-hmm.
VHS tapes for $1, and I had a budget. So if I had $5, I could get 5 movies.
Right.
Now, for the equivalent of that, you can join a website and have 40,000. So the choices are infinite. And I think what it's doing now is it's changing everything to kind of microeconomies. Um, Performers have more control because a performer with a decent brand and a good social media campaign and an iPhone can spend an afternoon making content that is going to make him or her a nice wage.
Yeah.
It's not going to make him rich in a day, but in the past, and I always kind of use the movie Pirates that Digital Playground did years ago, which is a great movie.
Mm-hmm.
But in order to make that, they had to pay all the pre-production people, pay the costume designers, pay the writers, pay an entire cast, an entire crew, edit the movie, market the movie, duplicate the movie. All of this money had to be made in order to make a profit. Now, performer doesn't have to work for $800 or $400 a scene.
Right.
They can make that money themselves in their own bedroom.
Yep.
Maybe more than that.
Oh, yeah.
So it doesn't have to support this huge movie in order to make a profit. And I think that's a really big thing. And social media has made a huge impact on that.
Mm-hmm.
That and the direct-to-consumer platforms,
Hmm.
right? OnlyFans is obviously the one that everybody's using right now. It's easy. And I say easy. I don't mean to dismiss how hard, especially the women in this industry, work.
Right.
But if you are popular, it is not nearly as tough to make a living and work every day if you're willing to work every day.
Yes.
And you see it with the performers who are popular and who last, know this, and they work, and there's enough fans willing to give them small amounts of money,
Mm-hmm.
seemingly small, but that's what we used to pay the video store to rent the movie.
Yeah.
And a couple dollars a time from a few thousand people adds up pretty quickly. And that is something that if I could go back 25 years, that Roger would not have understood it. I wouldn't have had a concept of this. Imagine going back 25 years and saying, look, porn stars don't have to do movies. Not really. There's going to be this thing where everybody's phone is going to have an update on their favorite 50 porn stars. Or
Well, you couldn't have imagined smartphones. Let's start with that.
Yeah, it's
or,
really
or gig speed internet or 5G.
Yeah, that's like I said. Somewhere there is a box of floppy disks that I think have 3 images apiece on them.
I love it.
You know, it's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
But the individual access points for porn. Again, nobody has to go into a video store anymore.
Oh, no.
And video stores were a huge jump forward from adult theaters.
Right.
Then all of a sudden, instead of having to go to a theater and risk being seen, you went to a store and you took a movie home.
Right.
And now you don't even have to do that. Now you can just, have whatever device you have. It's revolutionized everything. And it makes me wonder, if I'm around for 10 more years, what's it going to look like?
I think you'll be around for 10 more years. I sure hope so.
We'll see. We'll see. If people aren't sick of me yet, maybe they won't.
Oh, you meant in the industry. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, good. You were worrying me for a second, Roger.
No, I should be good there.
Okay, good to hear. Now, how have conventions and adult expos changed?
They've changed a ton. I went to my first convention in 1988, back when the adult industry got together twice a year in Las Vegas, once for the Video Software Distributors Association, and then for CES. Consumer Electronics Show then was the biggest electronics show, at least in the country. I don't know about the world, but certainly in the United States. Everything. Right. Video games, computers, cameras, cars. It was huge. Yeah. And as part of that, the adult industry was very smart and said, we're going to take the Sahara, and all of you men, because it was primarily men who like electronics and like porn, you get to go to these shows. Yeah. And that was the first one I did. And people would wait in long lines to pose for a picture, get an autograph, because that was it. Right. Unless your favorite star came to dance in your town, And I came from, suburban San Diego. So unless I wanted to go downtown San Diego, I
I love
rarely
that
saw
town.
anybody.
I didn't
Oh,
know. I didn't know you're from there. I love it. That's one of my favorite places in the world.
it's great.
Yeah.
But you were lucky if you had a star come through.
Yeah. I know.
So waiting in line for 2 hours to get an autograph wasn't anything you batted an eye at, because it was worth it to have 45 seconds of conversation, get an autograph. And now you open your phone and you know what they've had for breakfast before you even wake up.
Right.
So I think some of the shine is gone.
Yeah.
And also some of the reasons for it. One of the big reasons for stars to go to CES was so people would see them. So the guys who were in computers would go, "Who's this Janine woman?"
At that time, was AVN part of CES or just adjacent to CES?
It was part of CES.
Oh.
AVN was there, but it wasn't their show yet. So AVN,
really?
I want to say, took over. Yeah, it was just CES.
Oh, wow.
And you had to have a separate badge. And I distinctly remember the first 2 times I went with my father, because he owned a video store. And on Sunday of the show, we could sell our pass to go upstairs at the Sahara for $100. And we paid nothing for it. People were waiting in line to buy passes because you had to have an in order to get in.
Yeah.
And it was much different. I think in a lot of ways, and I don't want to sound like the old guy, but it was nicer. It was kinder then.
Yeah.
I think the fans were kinder to performers. Performers had to be kinder to fans. It was their only interaction.
Sure.
And I think it sort of goes both ways, right?
Yeah.
You sit with a line of people who are impatient and greedy all day, and you're going to be a little short too.
Yeah.
But now with social media, I think people are just so casual. And not that you have to, bow down and treat them like, royalty, but you should treat them with respect as you would anyone. And I see a lot less of that these days.
Oh, sure.
And
I think that's the world.
Yeah, it could be. I still like going to conventions, but now it's more to catch up with people.
Right.
But back then, it was really important for an adult star trying to get a name together to sign a bunch of autographs and send them home. The guys at the video store wanted to go through my album every year. Who we looking for? Who was pretty? Who was and it was a great marketing tool.
Yeah.
So I think it's still great marketing, but again, I think it's now you're handing individual business cards, and it's smaller, more personal transactions that are taking place.
Sure. My first year in the business, I went to AVN and Internext in Vegas. That would have been about 17 years ago, I'd say. And I posed with all the porn stars because I knew that the pictures would be interesting to my friends. And oh God, were there? I didn't know any of them. I've never been much of a porn consumer before I got into this industry, and I can't say I'm a big porn consumer now. I'm a B2B guy, but at the same time, oh God, the guys will go, "Oh, look, there's so and so." I go, "Oh yeah."
Okay. Yeah, it is a lot of fun to people watch,
right?
Especially
right. Oh God, yeah.
I used to stand in line, and people would bring stacks of stuff to be autographed. Magazines, box covers, all kinds of cool stuff. That was pretty fun to watch.
Oh yeah, what I enjoyed. I remember there was an industry only day, which is when I went in, and then I went to one of the days where the crowds were there. I was like, these guys, the girls would throw a T-shirt and they'd be tearing it apart, to try to get it. It was like, oh my God. It was like, okay. I didn't quite get it, but okay.
I remember the first show I went to, I think it was the second performer I ever met, Trinity Loren, who's passed. Beautiful woman, huge breasts. I was just 21. That's why I got to go. My first time in Vegas, and I went to pose for a picture, and I put my hand on her hip and stood next to her as if I were with anyone.
Yeah.
And she clearly saw that I was nervous and grabbed my hand from her hip, put it on her boob, and I swear to you, I jumped like someone had shot me in the chest. I said, "What are you doing?" And she said, "You don't have to, but it's okay." I want to. It was
It was a shock. I know.
oh
I
I,
know.
oh it was just so absolutely. I was not expecting it,
That's adorable. That's adorable.
and of course now I stand in line. I see people groping, and it's like, man, don't. If she wants you to, she will, and it'll be great.
Security's
But
very active. I was at AVN last year, and oh my God, security! I saw security throwing a couple of guys out.
yeah,
It's just like I was mainly in the B2B area, but to get to the B2B area, I had to go through the B2C area, unfortunately, and it was like, oh Lord.
yeah. There's and unfortunately there is some truly bad behavior that goes on.
Yeah, of course. They get drunk. They're in Vegas. They get drunk. They believe this what happens in Vegas shit, and then they end up in a jail cell.
Right.
So,
Yep.
well, it happened in Vegas. So, what are the most common questions you get from readers?
Oh man. Over the years, probably the most common is, what do I watch with my partner? Right. I used to get that a lot, especially again when we go back to when it was movies and when, okay, my wife's going to watch movies with me. What should I bring home? And we used to get that in the video stores all the time too, right? The guys that go in by themselves, they know what they want. They don't need to ask.
Sure.
But couples, a lot of times it's, what can you recommend? And that's always been a great question to me because it made me feel like I was helping in some way to point people in the right direction.
Yeah.
And it always was special to me because what was typical couples porn didn't work in my house. My wife doesn't want to see softcore. She would always say, if we're going to watch bad acting, let's just watch bad acting.
Yeah.
If we're going to watch porn, let's watch porn.
That's funny.
And
I like your wife already.
It was like, look, it's soft piano music and it's bad acting. Let's just move on.
Yeah.
And a lot of couples porn, especially mid 2000s, focused a lot on lesbian sex, and that's not what my wife likes.
Right.
She, actively tunes out during those porn. So I learned from that couples porn is whatever you guys are into.
Right.
So my answer would usually be sort of in the form of a professor question, right? Okay, I have a follow-up question in 8 parts for you. but
fill out this question here and get back to me.
Do you like ABC? But I usually have a couple of titles, like if you like serious features, here's a couple. If you like really pretty stuff, here's a couple, and on and on. And one of my answers to that was, before my wife, I had a girlfriend who didn't like porn, and there was one that she liked, and we watched it over and over. So I'd always tell people, The Chameleon. Watch The Chameleon, an old John Leslie movie, because someone who didn't like porn at all would watch it over and over because she really liked it. So that was a good one. One of the ones I didn't like was, how do you hide your porn? Which was easy for me to answer. Was I don't. I never have. I didn't break it out on the first date, but I had, working in video stores over the years and going to shows, I had a collection of pictures, of autographs, of movies.
Right.
And at the appropriate time, let my girlfriend know I have this. And as she became my wife, I have this. Similarly, when I started the site, I didn't hide it from her.
Right.
She came into the spare bedroom one day and I was typing, "What are you doing?" "I'm writing a porn review." And she left the room. And when it came time to, hey, I can make some money doing this, it was a conversation we had together.
Yeah.
So back to the question, how do you hide it? My answer is always don't.
Right.
If you have to hide it, it's not the right relationship.
Yeah.
Or if it's the right relationship and they won't tolerate it, that's okay too.
Right.
But the idea of hiding it to me was, and it was never hidden. You asked earlier about my background.
Right.
My parents had stuff. I wasn't allowed around it because I was a kid.
Right.
But it wasn't because this isn't supposed to be in the house. It was, this is not for children.
Exactly.
And, my parents owned the store. So my mom recommended porn for couples. So I've always been very, don't hide it. If you have to hide it, there's probably a problem.
Yes.
And probably the third question, I used to love this: do you get paid for this? Right.
I do it out of the goodness of my heart.
Well, I had a group of friends. We were all very much into sports and sports talk, and we'd go to sports bars. And my friend Adrian, his favorite thing to do was sort of do a bar bet with someone. you'll never guess what this guy does for a living.
Oh, I love it.
And then they'd guess, and I'd eventually say, and of course it was like, no, you don't. And then it was, okay, let me see your phone. Now, keep in mind, this was a flip phone.
Yeah.
But here, there's Jules Jordan's phone number.
Yeah.
There's Jenna Jameson's phone number. You know these people? I'm like, this is what I do for a living. And then it was, guess how much he makes. And, you know, and then, of course, then what Adrian would do was, you know, if you will buy our table beer and chicken wings, you can go to Roger's trunk, which, you know, was filled with porn anytime I went out because I had all these screeners coming in and no place for them. So
right, so have some DVDs, yep. And we get beer and chicken wings. That's awesome.
You pick up our tab,
right?
You can walk away with
some porn.
I remember one time one of the guys going, you know, he walked away with $400 worth of movies. Like, yeah, but we got beer and chicken wings.
Exactly.
I had a trunk of porn. I didn't have beer and chicken wings. It's supply and demand here.
I love it. Yeah, I think you did well. Do you still like porn after all these years and so many reviews?
I do. When I was doing it, when it was my entire job, I used to tell my wife the last weekend of the month was Disney weekend because I was done. I was tired of watching people have sex. Now I don't do it nearly as much, but come award time when I'm doing 20 hours a day, 4 and 5 monitors going on all the different performances.
Yeah.
I get burnt out.
Oh yeah.
But a good movie or a good performer, I still like it. And I think if I didn't, I wouldn't still do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm married, have a job, have kids, have all these things going on. If I didn't still like it, I'd probably just let it all go.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you got a regular job too?
I do. For about the last 8 years, we had some family medical issues and I needed to have steady income because the site went through some adjustment periods and the industry changed a lot. Had a couple of big advertisers that left and it was, okay, now we're going to struggle some months. Yeah. And instead said, you know, I can get a regular job and benefits and cover everything.
That's always
so.
Nice.
Now I do this. I prefer the other. You know, if someone came along and said, hey, Raj, I want you to run the site for the next 5 years. Here's going to be your base salary. I'd do it in a heartbeat. And I would do 8 to 10 hours a day without a problem. But without that guaranteed money, you know, kids in college, mom's got some medical issues. Those all have to get taken care of first. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, are there genres you won't review or don't like?
I never say that I won't review something. As far as a genre goes, there's genres I like more than others. I'm not a huge fan of lesbian porn. Like I mentioned, my wife doesn't like it. Therefore, I like it a lot less because it doesn't interest her.
Right.
And there's stuff that I really like, so I'll watch a lot of that. But I've only reviewed a couple of gay titles. And it's not because I have a problem with it. It's because it doesn't do anything for me.
You know, I think to review gay porn, you almost have to be a consumer of it. And I think the same probably goes for shemale.
That's how I feel. The gay, bi, trans, and fetish too. I'm not a big bondage guy. So what ended up happening was in those reviews, I'd get feedback going, okay, you talked about the lighting, you talked about the editing. It's like, yeah, because it's two men. I get what they're doing. I totally understand it.
Right.
I don't know what you, the consumer, are looking for.
Have you ever thought of bringing people in to be specialists on this stuff?
Yes. Over the years, there's a lot more than just a couple of gay reviews on my site.
Yeah.
They're almost exclusive, written by other people for that reason.
Oh, good.
Because to me, otherwise, that's all I'm talking about.
Right.
The other stuff.
Yeah.
And it just, if it doesn't click with me, I don't think I'm doing it justice because
I get it. You know, I've got some amazing gay friends. And I'm from San Francisco, for God's sakes. What can I say? My best friend growing up is gay. My brother-in-law is gay. I could go on, but the bottom line is, and I'm not going to do this. Some of my best friends are gay because that sounds like a cop out. But I'm not one who enjoys or watches gay porn or female porn. And lesbian porn can be okay, but it's not my favorite. So now, will I sell those sites? I absolutely will sell those sites, but I don't have to watch them to sell them.
Yeah, and that's if I could find consistent writers, I'd do a lot more of those genres, because for me, I don't feel like I'm doing it any justice, and that's not fair to me. I have to be connected.
We should talk. We should talk. Maybe I can send some people in your direction. I know a lot of people, so I might have some ideas for you.
We used to go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
We used to have this argument, right? Is porn art, or is it something else? And to me, I've always said at its core, porn is masturbation material. If you're lucky, you got a partner there to help out.
Yeah.
So ultimately, what's good is what makes your naughty bits tingle.
Yeah.
Right. And it can be objectively good, or it can be whatever flips all your right switches.
Right.
And if something doesn't flip the switches, it doesn't matter what the production value is.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter at all.
Yeah.
And so to me, there's always this balance, and I try and be really fair. But look, there's some things I'm not going to be fair about. There's some things that are going to appeal to me more than they're going to appeal to anybody reading my review. Tom Byron used to laugh when Tommy was working for Extreme making movies. He said, "I know exactly how I get a perfect review from you." I'm like, "Really? You got me figured out." And he rattled off 5 performers. He goes, "I just have to be in the movie because you like my performances, and these 5 women." And I'm like, yeah, you're probably right. Because as a consumer, I would have bought that movie because I would have looked at it and gone, holy crap.
Yeah.
I'm going to like all this.
Yeah, so, of course. I'm not necessarily partial to any particular performers. I like Bukkake though. That's fun. The Japanese version of it is pretty crazy. So anyway,
crazy stuff.
Oh yeah. Now, did you ever think about getting in front of the camera?
I've been in front of the camera, fully dressed.
Oh, I see.
Nobody needs to vomit. It's just not something that ever really presented itself.
Sure.
My wife's very comfortable with just about everything. That wasn't something she was particularly comfortable with, except for on a couple of occasions.
Right.
And then the timing wasn't right, or you could shoot your own stuff, but it costs money. And
right.
So but I've been in a couple of movies, just little bit parts and stuff, but mostly just my interest is as a fan and as a journalist, and I think that's where I belong.
There you go, and you do it well. Now,
thank you.
Now, do you have any favorite interviews over the years?
Yeah, I do. There's people I interviewed repeatedly who were always good. Aurora Snow was always good for a great interview. She has a great sense of humor. She's smart. And I got to interview her from when she was brand new to when she was done as a performer and had accomplished all these great things. So that was great, because then we sort of got the typical porn reviewer questions out of the way. Knew her favorite position, knew where she was from, all that stuff, and had to kind of dig and talk a little more. And that always worked well. Robbie D, when he was at Digital Playground was always really good at controlling their message and their image.
Sure.
And Robbie was always really good at giving me a whole lot more than they were comfortable with. But I think they made for great interviews. I interviewed Lexington Steele 4 or 5 times, and we never did a regular interview. It was always in a sports bar or in a restaurant.
Oh, wow.
And we would let the tape roll for 2 or 3 hours, and sometimes Lex would be particularly relaxed. And
got it.
And it was great. It became more conversational.
You mentioned him. I was in Miami the night he melted down. I witnessed it. It was quite interesting, to say the least.
He was a fun person. I remember I was in a Spoons restaurant with Lexington Steele and Mike John when he was directing at Anabolic, as well as Lex. And the waitress recognized Lex and kept coming over. And Mike and Lex were both very relaxed. And it became a thing.
Oh,
It became a
God.
thing because Mike was not having it. Hey, I'm a famous director here. Hold on.
That's funny.
And Lex at the time had a relationship and was trying very hard to politely, yep, we're kind of busy here.
God,
But she was
that's good.
starstruck.
That's good.
So
I
those
guess
were good.
I guess I caught him on a bad day.
Yeah, he's always been really great to me. And sometimes you can catch people on a bad day.
Yes.
I'm not going to say his name, but my wife has a particular porn star she always liked. And that gentleman happens to be one of the coolest people I've ever met. Was cool to me when I was going to shows and passing out physical copies of reviews to let people know what I was doing. This particular guy, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead because he's a cool guy. It was Shawn Michaels, and Shawn pulled a review out of the trash because the president of
I thought you were going to say Ron Jeremy, but go ahead.
Oh no! So Shawn actually pulled a review out and grabbed me and said, "Hold on, I want to read this before you leave." And he was always great. He was super cool, and my wife thought he was just super handsome and a great performer. So she almost never went to shows. She went to one. We walked over to the booth, and I went to introduce my wife to Shawn, and he was having a bad day.
Oh no!
And my wife was like, "Wow, that was really kind of unpleasant." I'm like, I know. And Shawn said he will make it up to her at some point. It was just it's one of those. Wait, no, you're always the nicest guy. What happened?
Yeah.
But of all my interviews that I've done, my favorite was with John Stalliano. Because of who he is.
Yeah.
It obviously was a big deal. He and I sat down in a restaurant in Vegas, and he just obliterated the whole idea of porn critics. Just your entire profession is full of shit. And he told me and 3 or 4 other critics why we were all full of shit. And I basically said, "Oh, good point. I disagree, and here's why." And I told him where I came from and how I got into it and why I got into it. Yeah. But I got into it for the fans. And at the end of the day, his wife gave me his card and said, "Call, we're set up an interview." So I went to his house, which was surreal for me as a fan, right? I was sitting in this room that I'd seen in 20 of my favorite movies. Right?
Oh, wow.
He showed me where the fire came up and damaged the house. He sat and watched a Cubs game.
Oh, wow.
While we did an interview.
Nice.
And it was just this long flowing conversation that would stop whenever Sammy Sosa came to the plate. So we'd watch the game.
I know about what time, what year it was. Yeah.
It was, and we talked for probably an hour about baseball. And then he would get a call from John Leslie. So he'd hang up the phone and say it was John. And then we'd start talking about John. And then Joey Silvera called. So it was this sort of meandering long 4.5 hours.
Jeez.
But in the end, it was really good, and I couldn't help but just be a huge fan.
Yeah.
And there was so much porn history that he just wove in that time.
Sure.
And I was really glad we had that setting, because in Vegas, you've got 15 minutes usually.
If you're lucky.
You got to have your questions all asked, and that's all you can do.
Yeah.
And this was a whole lot more. And I'm really proud of it, and I'd love to do it again at some point.
Fantastic. Do you still have anyone on your wish list for interviews?
I really wish I had had a chance to interview John Leslie, because I think he's just such a fantastic artist. Unfortunately, he passed.
Right.
I'd like to sit down with Angela White again. I interviewed her early in her American phase of her career, where she was super fun and energetic, and I kept thinking, my God, who is this woman, and how are we going to contain this energy? Now, 5 years and 3 AVN Performer of the Year awards later, I see where she was going, and I would love to sit down with her. A couple others, Greg Lansky, who's done so much recently.
Oh, yeah.
I would love to sit down and talk with him. Caden Cross, who I interviewed when she was a performer at Digital Playground. Again, she's transitioned to being, an award-winning director now. And I haven't interviewed Jules Jordan in probably 10 years. And again, someone who's been around for a long time and seen all the changes and has had to do company pivots. I find that really interesting. Interviewing new porn performers is a little less interesting to me these days, just because I hate to sound like the old guy, but I read the interviews. I'm like, I asked those questions 20 years ago too. She's going to tell you her favorite position is doggy, because they all do.
That's funny.
So I'd like to do interviews like that. And
Oh yeah, famous people definitely. Have you ever been recognized or had your famous moment?
I get recognized at shows mostly by people in the industry.
Yeah.
Fans or readers don't really recognize me. There was no picture of me anywhere for a good 10 years.
Yeah.
So not often. There are two examples, and I'll try and keep them short.
Okay.
In Vegas one year, I was walking the floor, and of course we have our name badges on. They're pretty big, and I was hurrying because I always do. I don't like crowds. So you've been on the floor, right?
Oh yeah.
Imagine someone who doesn't like crowds, someone who is perpetually running late, and needing to be on the other side of the room 3 minutes ago, trying to move quickly.
Oh,
so I'm moving quickly, and someone grabs my arm and says, "Hey," which back then, good internet feuds going on. Maybe I'm about to get punched. I'm not sure. So I was a little defensive. And the guy pointed and said, "You're Roger." I'm like, I am. I read your site. I really love your stuff. Super nice guy. So I stopped and talked to him. Long story short, he's from Vegas. What are you guys doing? You got parties going on? And I said, I'm kind of not a party guy anymore. A couple of my friends were going to go maybe see this particular show tonight. And he said, "Really?" He whips out his card. He's the producer of the show we wanted to see.
Oh, weird.
I said, that's such a coincidence. We were looking for tickets. He's like, you know what? Give me your number. I'll call you in 15 minutes. We'll set you up with some tickets.
Nice.
So center, fourth row, amazing seats.
Wow.
He came out at intermission and said, "Hey, come backstage."
Oh no.
After the show.
That's cool.
So
what was it? What was the show?
It was Mamma Mia.
Oh wow.
And it was really one of the coolest things ever, all because he recognized me. The other one,
that's amazing.
It was super nice. What was really cool for me was he met me in my element. Right, as we're talking, people are walking by and saying hello to me, and he's starstruck. "Oh, that's so and so." And I'm like, "Yeah, you know them." Yes. Well, we went backstage at this musical that I had just, enjoyed the hell out of, and he walks into the room, and everybody turns and says hello, and is very deferential. And I'm like, in here, you're the man.
Yeah,
you're
I know.
it. So when we kind of went out on stage to take some pictures, and a couple of the cast members were like, "Would you like us to come out?" I was like, "Oh, that's because we're with this guy over here." So it was very cool. He was a great guy. And when the show came to LA, he set us up with some tickets too. My family got to go. It was great.
That's awesome.
That was the best. The funniest to me, back in the beginning, my sister was going to school in San Francisco, actually. And she was hanging out.
Where'd she go?
She went to San Francisco State.
That's my alma mater.
It's a great campus. I was there a couple times.
Yeah, it's kind of old school, kind of cool.
Yeah.
Small.
So she was up there, and she apparently was in a dorm room, hanging out with some friends, some guy's dorm room, and she knew what I did. My family knew right from the beginning.
Yeah, sure.
And she saw a binder on his desk with my name on it.
Oh wow.
And so she kind of waited and pulled it out and said, "What is this?" And the guy goes, "Oh, it's this guy who reviews porn on the internet, and we just print out some of the funny reviews and some of the ones we really like, and we sort of pass this book around so we know what to buy." She called me up. She said, "You're not going to believe where I saw your work." Like, well, apparently I'm San Francisco State famous.
I love it. I love it. The Gators love you. I used to call their football games, among other things. So do you think the era of porn stars is over?
I don't think, for example, there's ever going to be another Jenna Jameson. I just don't. I think that kind of crossover mainstream, everybody knows her name.
Sure.
Is kind of gone. Because there's no studio system pushing anybody now. Jenna was fantastic.
Yeah.
She also had a huge company behind her running campaigns with her at the center.
Yep.
That doesn't happen anymore. Performers have to do that almost always on their own.
Social media, yeah.
Yeah, and some of them are fantastic at it. Right? Riley Reid, people know who Riley Reid is in the mainstream, but not like 1980s Ginger Lynn or 1990s Jenna Jameson. It's different.
Sure.
And in that way, if we want to define porn star that way, yes. But if you want to define it as a star, as an artist doing their own thing, no. Angela White's got 3 Performer of the Year titles. Nobody else has more than 2. She's probably going to get 1 or 2 more before she's done.
Yeah.
So That's not a coincidence. It's just a different kind of stardom, I think, now.
Yeah. Yeah. No two ways about it. Clip artists are stars now.
Yeah.
So how will the industry need to adapt to thrive in the future?
I think they're going to have to embrace, and I think they already have, but I think they're going to continue to embrace the microeconomies, right? Performers doing their own thing is the way to go. And companies are going to have to figure out that in the past, right, going way back, a lot of performers did adult movies so they could feature dance because the money was in dancing. And then for a while, you did movies to promote your own website.
Right.
Because that's what you really wanted. But you had to do a Brazzers movie or a Jules Jordan movie to get known.
Yep.
Now, you've got performers that have the big companies saying, hey, come shoot a scene for us because you've already got 1 million social media fans.
That's right.
And you're going to bring people to our brand instead of the other way around. So I think they're going to have to just continue to embrace that and be forward thinking. What's next?
Well, they better have a truckload of cash too, because really most of these clip artists and camp performers don't really have a big financial incentive to go do a shoot for a site. I mean, is even $1,000 or $2,000 a day going to be that interesting to them when they can sit at home in their bathrobe and make that?
Yep, that's the thing. The new performers who don't know that yet are still going to do movies the old way.
Yeah.
But again, for the truly hardworking and dedicated performer, yeah, cut out a little bit of time for yourself every day and maximize that.
Sure.
And you don't need to do movies.
Yeah, but I mean, who doesn't? What young lady, or in some cases young man, doesn't know that? Doesn't know about OnlyFans? My God.
I think they all know about it.
Yes.
I think the allure is still go shoot your own content, do a live show, make a couple $100 today. Or go shoot, make $800, come back home. You're done. I think the entrepreneurial spirit is what's going to get you, right? The forward thinking, and again, either way is good. But to me, if I can make 100% of what I make,
right,
it's all me.
Right.
Or I go out and I get paid to do a job from someone else where they're collecting the bulk of the profit.
Yeah.
The appeal's there, and I think that's only going to continue to grow. You're going to find a lot more performers who get into it already knowing that, and that's going to make it tough if the industry doesn't embrace it. And I think you're going to see a lot more crossover.
Yeah.
Yes, this is shot for my site, but also for your clip store and your OnlyFans, and whoever gets the customer's eyes first gets that $20.
Right.
That and kill piracy. If we can just find a way to kill piracy, we're fine. You know.
I've got an interview on that. I've got an interview coming up on that in the next week with a notable piracy company where we're going to talk about that. So I cover all bases, Roger. Adult site broker talk is everywhere. Well, hey, I'd like to thank you once again for being our guest today on Adult Site Broker Talk, and I hope we'll get a chance to do it again really soon.
My pleasure. Thank you.
My broker tip today is part 3 of what to do to make your site more valuable for when you decide to sell it later. Find new ways to monetize your website, such as sell advertising. If you've got a free site like a tube, that's the best way to monetize your site. If you have a tube, another way to make more money is to sell premium memberships. Offer free users one level of content, and for premium users, you can do things like give them higher quality videos or longer videos or both. You can also make the site ad-free for premium members. Start an affiliate program. If you have a pay site especially, this is a great way to increase your quality of traffic and get more joins. With all sites, you can figure out other upgrades and products you can sell to your users. Pay sites can also sell pay-per-view, where people have the option of paying by the scene for content they can't get on the site. This is also another way to charge users as opposed to a monthly fee. Sell them other products like toys and novelties. Market your business. Do things to improve your search engine results, like using SEO. There are some great SEO consultants out there who can help you get higher search rankings in Google. If you want some recommendations, please contact us on our website. List all of the benefits of your site in your marketing and how they affect the user. And of course, hire a great marketing consulting firm, such as Adult B2B Marketing, which we also happen to own. Eliminate unneeded expenses. Constantly make sure you're not spending money you don't need to. Make sure there isn't duplication in your staffing. From time to time, check services you pay for, like hosting, and see if there are better and less expensive options. Take it from me, I've done this and saved a bunch, plus got higher quality hosting in the process. Again, ask us for recommendations. Always look for ways to do things more cost effectively. Along with this, make your profit and loss statement show more profit. Increasing sales and reducing expenses obviously does just that. Make sure your P&L statement accurately reflects your company's actual costs, not a bunch of personal BS you've put in for the tax man. This will cost you money when you sell. It may help you at tax time to put that stuff on your tax return, but it hurts you if you show that stuff on your profit and loss statement. Remember, every dollar in profit increases the value of your website as much as 3 to 4 times. This is why you need a good, experienced broker to help lead you through the process. We've gotten people thousands of dollars more on their sale just by adjusting the P&L statement to reflect actual business expenses as opposed again to that personal BS that you put on your tax return. We'll talk about this subject more next week. And next week, we'll be talking to Andy Woolmer of Traffic Partner. Yes, the traffic captain himself. You don't want to miss that. And that's it for this week's Adult Site Broker Talk. I'd once again like to thank my guest, Roger of Raj Reviews. Talk to you again next week on Adult Site Broker Talk. I'm Bruce Friedman.